This episode was recorded December 19th, 2025. Round 2 in the race to fill the vacant seat in District 98. I'm Nick Reagan, and in this episode of We The Palmetto, we're sitting down one-on-one with the Republican candidate, Greg Ford. We talked to Low Country voters. Trump was in true campaign form. Voting is officially underway. Joe Biden spoke here in the heart of downtown.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, I've got Greg Ford with me. He's the Republican candidate for the special election in District 98 in Dorchester County. First off, thanks for coming by.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, well, let's talk first off a little bit about your background. For those who haven't yet really had the opportunity to get to know you, give us a little bit of the background on your career, your retirement from the Air Force, and then now what you're doing.
Yes, sir. So originally from Lancaster, South Carolina, just right up there by Rock Hill. I'm third generation retired military. So I actually had a chance to serve with my dad for about 3 years after I entered the Air Force, which is really cool. We moved around quite a bit. We've lived down in Florida. We've lived in Washington State, Japan, some different areas, South Carolina, obviously. And then I actually traveled through the military to about 93 different countries. So my career in the military was aircraft maintainer to start with, and then I crossed over to an aircraft loadmaster, which was an air crew member. I had a qualification for special operations right here at Charleston Air Force Base for about 13 years. Served in Iraq, Afghanistan for right around 1,453 days, I believe is what's on my records. And we traveled to 92 different countries, which was really cool. Saw quite a few things. Once I retired from the military after just over 20 years, I went and worked a nuclear program at Barksdale, Louisiana, called the NLCC, which is National Leadership Communication Council, in the Nuclear Command and Control Communication Department, where I was a program manager to manage the nuclear signal if we ever hit the red button on what platform would carry it and make the missiles do what they needed to do.
Wow.
Once I left there, I come back here and worked for the INLA for the Department of State, maintaining their aircraft, or the program manager for their aircraft. Traveled all the way up the East Coast, maintaining their aircraft out there. And then left there and then ended up becoming a farmer. I needed something for me.
Something a little more grounded.
Yeah. Grounded. So I own a little farm, and we breed horses. Okay. So our goal is to breed show horses or jumping horses, sport horses. So I owned a Clydesdale stallion for a short time. He unfortunately suffered a injury that ended his time with us. And we have some thoroughbreds out there, thoroughbred mares, that we bred them to. So we have some sport horses on the way, or some that's on the ground. We have our first crop for 2026 coming February 9th through the 14th. And then we have some mid-year.
Yeah, how do you go from nuclear arsenal to farmer? I mean, where did that jump come from?
Everyone asks that, and it's basically me trying to go do something for me. I needed my mind to calm down.
Yeah.
So education-wise, I've done a lot of things that shows that my mind is always busy.
Yeah.
Coming from the military, going to the war zone for so long, and then the special operations, my mind is always going. And then going to the planning process for the nuclear, I needed something to kind of slow my mind down. So I've already ran up my education. So I completed my master's shortly after with the Citadel. Shortly after I retired, walked straight into a doctoral program. I'm up to a dissertation for that. I should be doing that instead of campaigning. But, it is what it is.
Yeah.
At some point, I just decided that I can't sit on the sideline. I need to be part of the solution.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, this isn't the first time you've run for this position.
No,
you ran in the primary last time, came up just a little bit short. Yep. But now in this most recent primary, you won out in a competitive race. And now we go on to the general election coming up here in just a couple of weeks. It's kind of crazy that it's right after sort of the holidays. And I don't know how much folks are going to be paying attention, though they need to be. But what makes this year different?
I respect both individuals that ran in the Republican side. Mm-hmm. They brought quite a bit of information to the table, some really great ideas. The voters decided that I was their candidate this time. So I am thankful to our voters for that. This year, I believe I'm slightly more prepared. I've had enough time to go and figure out some different areas, what the voters want and what they need. I was able to build the relationships within the Republican Party and within the county and the leadership sector and make those relationships to where it's going to make us effective.
Yeah.
So that's what's different this year. The last two times I ran against our previous representative, he was already in those positions, so it was hard for me to get in there.
It's difficult to topple an incumbent who is relatively well liked, and so it was always going to be an uphill climb. But with the seat opening up, you've managed to take advantage of that pretty well. I wonder what you think the biggest issue is, though, in District 98.
So District 98 has many issues. The state has many issues. The county has many issues. But the number one issue that we have in District 98 is our infrastructure. We all sit in traffic way too long. We all sit out there and we wonder when this road, Dorchester Road particularly, is when it's going to be fixed. We've heard it for many years that our legislators are going to get it fixed. It never comes to fruition. So what I have done since I found out I was the primary winner or the Republican candidate for this seat is I started making some calls to the different levels of the government and spoke with some folks that's on the SIB, the State Infrastructure Board, to find out what's going on with Dorchester Road. We need this thing fixed. Our growth is not keeping up with our road system.
Right.
So it sounds like there's some headway possibly going to happen in January, and I will be part of that process when we win this thing.
One of the key components to your platform, according to your website, is this idea of being able to reduce income tax to zero.
Yes,
I think you're a big proponent of that.
100%.
How do you balance that goal with also having a goal to address infrastructure needs across certainly the district, but as a lawmaker across the state?
So the question I get 90% of the time or 99% of the time is, if we reduce our income taxes, how do we replace that money? Okay, so go back to the doctoral program that I'm in right now. We base everything on correlation or statistics. If we reduce the income tax by 1%, Cato Institute has correlation or research that backs this up. The International Economy Research Institute, I believe is what they're called, has some of the correlation as well, that if you reduce it by 1% anywhere in the world, that your GDP would grow. So instead of us doing an income tax, it's going to be a special tax or a sales tax. So where you actually choose to be part of the economy versus being forced to be part of the economy.
So then would you raise sales tax to meet the difference, or do you think there's going to be enough growth to basically replace all of the income tax money?
So what I'd like to do is, there's two bills up at the State House that I'll sign on to immediately. As soon as I find out I'm elected and it's certified, I'll sign on to them. One is to completely eliminate the state income tax. I've campaigned on that. I will stand behind that.
And you want to do that immediately. Like, you don't want a 5-year rollout like some of the governor candidates you're proposing. You want to do it as soon as we sign the bill.
That's what I would like to do.
Okay.
That's not feasible, though.
Okay. Why?
I know that.
Okay.
So knowing that we have that income tax attached to so many factors of the government or our society, that we need to do this logically and systematically. So the other bill that I signed on to is a 3.99 flat tax with a 5-year window to get down to zero. That's what some of the governors are talking about right now. That's probably the most likely way that we need to go. But what I would do is give it 3.99 for 2026. At the end of 2026, we have some information that shows that either our GDP grew and we have that money coming in from other sources with population increase, sales increase, things along those lines. If that comes out and it shows the direct correlation of 6.2 to 3.99 at 2.2 or 2.3%, if they grew that much, the rest of it needs to go away immediately.
Okay.
So that's probably the most logical way to do it.
But that means instead of having whatever the state income tax is, 6 or 7 or whatever percent
6.2.
instead of that, it would be a flat tax for that first year for everybody pays 3.9% in tax.
That's what I understand it as.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. And then if the growth happens and we see that growth that you predict, that would go away as soon as possible.
I would advocate immediately.
Okay.
If we show a direct correlation of that 2.3% growth in our GDP, there's no need to keep the rest of the 3.99. It should correlate out. It should follow suit. We can get rid of 3.99. We should have a growth in our GDP, which will take care of itself.
A lot of people think that we don't adequately fund our roads and bridges already. And then we have people talking about reducing income tax to zero. And I just wonder if that's not going to compound, even if we have growth, compound the problem of already not putting enough money into our roads. I mean, can you address that?
So I understand the money's there.
Okay.
We fund it properly. The problem is the centralized control of the road system in Columbia. So those guys in Columbia, they don't know what District 98 is dealing with. So they're not living it every day. So the problem is they're not putting the emphasis on it like we are, is constituents within that area.
Yeah.
So I like to see decentralization of the road control and the money to be brought back down to the counties in some way, shape, or form. I originally talked about the county transportation board or committee. Talking to county council, it sounds like they did away with that in Dorchester County. So we need to figure out if there's an option to go through that process. But if we talk to some of the other smaller counties, they don't even have that capability because of manning. It's a personnel issue. So we need to figure that out. At this point, I'm not a legislator. I don't know everything.
Right.
But I'm willing to go learn it and figure out the best solution to make this go forward.
Yeah, I'm really waiting for somebody to come in here and tell me that their big plan for infrastructure is to create flying cars or transporters or something to get us replaced.
No.
Right now it's like, well, let's get more money involved and let's get more roads and bridges. And so obviously I'd be a little sarcastic here, but it seems like we're still waiting for a real big innovative idea. But also if we could just do the traditional things like proper road and city planning here, I think that traffic could be a lot better. But then we run into the issue of everybody wants to preserve the natural spaces in South Carolina. And so I know that you have put on your website this idea of we need to have better planning for these areas. How do you balance the massive growth that we're seeing with protecting the natural beauty or the natural features of District 98?
So I'm a big proponent of outdoors.
Yeah.
So I'm a hunter. I like to go fishing. I love to go do that stuff. But here's the other side of me. I'm also a big proponent of personal privacy and the government staying out of my business.
Yeah.
So if I own a piece of property, that's property ownership. Mm-hmm. They can't tell me, in my opinion, they can't tell me what I can do with that property. So there's a fine line of balancing the management side of development and personal ownership.
Sure.
So we got to figure that out. As a state legislator, I don't sign the permits to build on someone's property.
Right.
So that's not in my wheelhouse. But what I can do is I can talk to our county council, which is where it falls, and have a conversation with them.
Sure.
As a state legislator, I won't ask them to do anything, to stop it or any of that stuff, because that's not my place. That they were elected to do that, not me. But what I can do is go up and advocate for additional funding for the state aspect of our infrastructure to help with that.
Well, one of the big things right now that we see a lot of in the last 10 years or so across South Carolina is government handing out big tax breaks to large corporations to set up shop here. Yep. I think sort of a similar but different problem or issue right now is the desire for like data centers to pop up. Colleton County is going through this whole thing.
Last night.
Yeah, exactly. And that's drawing the attention of politicians. And quite frankly, Dorchester County is a big county, and there are lots of rural places where things like data centers or power plants or whatever could pop up that would create problems. In this sort of two-part question being, should we be giving tax breaks to major corporations to move down here? And B, do we need more regulation in terms of what kinds of businesses, what kinds of industry we want in the state?
So as a Republican platform, I want the government out of as much as we can.
Okay.
So an open market. So whoever wants to move down here as an industry, come on. I'm not going to say we want airplanes. I'm not going to say we want data centers. They want to come down here. Here's our taxation. Come if you want. If we give them the actual reduce, it's called fee in lieu of taxes, and we do that for a significant amount of time. We got a data center just got put up on Highway 17 right there before the Edisto River. Mm-hmm. It took 280-ish acres, I believe is what they put on there. And they're actually having to put in a transmission system because our infrastructure for our electric grid is not working quite right or doesn't have the capacity. So they're having to supplement that. Taxpayers or ratepayers are actually having to supplement their bills to make that happen, which I don't agree with. Mm-hmm. They come in there, they need to be able to figure out how to do their power. We have the water system out there that we had a whole big discussion about. I understand that it's going to take right around 1 million gallons of water, from what I understand, and then it's going to be a closed system. So originally when they was telling us about it, it was going to be 1 million gallons a day, and it was going to drain our aquifer.
Right.
Now that I understand a little bit more, it sounds like it's going to be 1 million gallons put into a closed system like a radiator on a car, which will help. I'm not quite sure why they didn't do geothermal, drill down into the earth and let it do its cooling and do whatever. Sure. That doesn't make sense to me at that point, but not quite sure.
Yeah.
So fee in lieu of taxes. We just talked about on the podcast I just completed education. So the development in Dorchester County, particularly District 98, is more homes. Act 388 took all of our taxes and moved it over to businesses. So now we have a discrepancy between Dorchester County, Berkeley County, Charleston County on how much money we make per kid or paid per kid. So now our school teachers are getting siphoned off by Dorchester or Berkeley County and Charleston County. If we do fee in lieu of taxes, we now just crippled ourselves for that business.
Right. Well, and to bring people up to speed, what you're talking about is basically the tax on individual homes, family homes.
Yes.
Basically goes back to the home owner instead of the government. But those are the taxes that feed the school districts.
Yes.
And instead, it's now just the property tax on businesses that are feeding the school district. And if you only have homes, you have no taxes for schools. That's kind of like Mount Pleasant is mostly homes, right? They don't. So anyways, and then more areas that have more businesses have more taxes for their schools, which has created some problems for DD2 especially.
It's causing us a little bit of an issue right now. But how do we go back and fix that right now? We have permits that are built into the system already. We have property owners that we, as Republicans, we shouldn't be telling them what they're to do with it. We have, large swaths of land that are sitting out there that could be developed at any time. How do we go backwards and fix it?
Right,
we're
but
in an accordion effect
does
right
the
now.
government need to, at any point, offer an incentive for one of these businesses to come down here?
Let's look at one of the biggest ones we have in the news right now, Scout Motors.
Yep.
1.3, 1.6 billion, depends on what you read, 1.3 billion. They just now took all the jobs, 1,200 of them, put them in North Carolina. That's $1.3 billion. We could have given, if we do the math correct, and if my math's close, we could have given right around $50,000 to 55,000 small businesses. That would have made a bigger impact on our job and our GDP within the state of South Carolina. So let's talk about that one for just a second. I don't agree with that. I don't know why it was done. I wasn't a legislator at the time. I do not agree with it. That's a large chunk of money. I would rather see it go to small businesses. So the incentives, the businesses are already coming to the state of South Carolina because of our taxes and the low pay.
Right. That was kind of my point. Is do they need an additional incentive to come down here if they're already trying to come down here?
No. Not in my opinion, no.
Yeah. Well, and it also strikes me that the state government particularly likes to boast about big manufacturing jobs that come down here. And 15, 20 years ago, it was we're building a steel mill and we're bringing in 300 new jobs, all making 100K.
Yep.
This is you can feed an entire family on one paycheck. And now it feels like when we get these notifications, we're bringing in a factory. It's going to be fully automated. You're going to get 40 new jobs, and most of them are for people that need additional technical training in order to get them. And we're still, we're giving tax breaks. We're bragging about all of this. And I just wonder if going forward, we need a new perspective on how we're handling big business and treating manufacturing jobs. When a lot of them are not a lot, many of them are being taken by AI, robots, whatever. Do you see a problem with the way we handle these things?
So we had that discussion the other day. I'd like to put some guardrails on AI.
Yeah.
Somehow. I don't know how that's going to happen at this point.
Yep.
We need to get a little bit further into AI. So I'd like to see, if you want to put AI or robotics in your organization, there needs to be a stop or window of making sure we don't replace every single human being. That's not conducive to the state of South Carolina.
Right.
So that would go into the infrastructure side as well, because AI is not going anywhere.
Right.
Robotics isn't
Well,
going
we got to
anywhere.
embrace it, but
it has to.
There needs to be some kind of limits.
We need to be ahead of it, be reactive or proactive versus reactive. And if you start looking at it, we also need to go into our education system and make sure we have adults or able working bodies that has the skills to fulfill some of these duties or these jobs. When Boeing come in here, they talked about bringing multi-thousands of jobs in here. How many of them come from Washington State? They imported those workers with those skills because the state of South Carolina didn't have those skills. We built Ready SC that trains some of our, but it's all the lower level people versus the upper level. AI centers are going to be the same way. They're going to bring in technology from somewhere else. They're not going to get it. Colleton County, they're not getting those people out of Walterboro.
Right.
The technology is just not there. The education is not there for the mass majority that lives in Walterboro or in that Colleton County area. So we need to look at that. So the infrastructure, I would cap that or encapsulate that with the infrastructure. Everyone thinks about roads, but there's so many other factors that goes into it. Electric grid, the water grid, the sewer grid, all the way down to, I just had a conversation about crypto and AI. That stuff's not going anywhere.
Not crypto.
So why don't we start looking at that as part of our infrastructure, at some point here in the near future and be proactive.
Well, you're a big civil liberties guy, at least according to your website. I want to read this one sentence that you have up there that says, in recent months, we've seen government overreach regarding civil liberties and individual rights. And I think you're specifically talking about things like vaccine mandates and such. But what does that sentence really mean, and how does it impact what you would want to do up in Columbia?
So I will not support anything that mandates vaccination or anything along those lines. So
does that include vaccinations for students going to school?
So the CDC just reduced all the newborn, and they're starting to reduce some of those vaccinations. So you as an individual, that is your body. The government, the way they have everything written right now is it's going to be a mandate for you to take some immunization, but then they put liability blocks on who mandates it. So you can't, if you have an injury, you can't go back and get any type of lawsuit against them. They put barriers to where you can't do that.
I see.
So one of the things that I saw right after COVID was there was some bills put up in the State House that would allow employers to mandate their employees to get COVID vaccines. I'm now taking my health and putting it over. Let's say I work at McDonald's. I'm putting it over to some 20-year-old that stayed at McDonald's just long enough to be a manager that's going to tell me what I can put in my body, and then they have no liability on it. That's foul. So medical freedom, I just did an endorsement, or they just released an endorsement for me. Medical freedom. I think it's South Carolina Health Freedom is who just did the endorsement. And one of the things is mandatory vaccinations. I don't stand for that.
What about for things like measles? We're seeing an outbreak in the upstate. Should children get vaccinated for measles?
Do we have a outbreak of actual measles, or do we have something that they think is measles? Because let's talk about herd immunity. So if we eradicated the measles back in the 50s, 60s, whenever they eradicated it, herd immunity should have taken care of that. There's no way that it can come back.
But
Right.
I mean, the disease
So,
mutates.
How did it
mutate?
How did it mutate?
Because
If we
there's
have
always
herd
some
immunity.
people that carry it, right? They're just not symptomatic. I mean, so then your perspective is that the measles vaccine is not necessary.
Right now, we need to do some research on it to make
Okay.
sure what we're getting. There's so much misinformation and disinformation out there.
I'll agree to that.
So
yeah,
I don't know what the situation is 100%.
sure.
So I can't say, no, it's not. I don't have the data in front of me to say we've completely eradicated it. Now, if we
Right.
see data that says it was mostly eradicated,
Sure.
now we probably need to take some steps to mitigate it.
Well, I think eradicated, I could be totally wrong about this, but I think eradicated medically means that it's it's 95% not in circulation or something. So it's always still out there. It's just not, you're never going to get 100% of anything. So anyways, I guess I was just curious about, because there's this sort of duality of, we support private citizens doing things, and we support businesses doing things, and we don't want to interfere with business. But at the same time, we don't want business to be allowed to make a vaccine mandate, for example. I mean, McDonald's is a private company.
Yep.
Shouldn't they be able to say, if you want to work here, you have to do these things? Or is getting a vaccine a bridge too far?
That is not in their purview. That is a decision between me and my doctor, not
Right.
McDonald's.
You don't have to work at McDonald's.
I don't have to work at McDonald's. You're 100% correct. But that's anybody.
Right.
My wife works for the government. They mandated vaccines for her. Now, here's the problem. We just went through COVID. Okay, was COVID actual COVID, or was it the flu, or was it something else? We don't know right now. Let's go back to the misinformation, disinformation.
Okay.
We don't know exactly what we just went through. They mandated all this stuff. We have people that has myocardia. We have people that has seizures. We have people that has all types of stuff going on from those vaccines that it's being connected to now. So we need to protect our citizens. The government just eroded our trust as a society in what they're doing. So you think people's going to go jump on a measles shot right now?
Well, I definitely think that Republicans had their trust in government eroded under the Biden administration, and now Democrats are having their trust eroded in the government under the Trump administration.
100%.
And so I think there's a lot of people out there that just say, I don't know who to trust anymore.
It's hard. It's hard right now. But,
Right.
If we actually, use data and are open with our data, it would help us a lot. Stop all this misinformation, disinformation. If we just had it straight out there, CDC's working on some different things right now. And if you watch the website, every day things are changing.
Yeah.
Hey, the vaccine's great. No, it's not. Red number 5 is good. No, it's not. And you're just like, yesterday it was good. No,
Right.
fluoride in the water system. It was supposed to be good for us forever. Now it's, oh my gosh, it might be doing something with autism.
Sure. So at the end of the day, you're saying the individual should have the right to at least look at all of the information and decide what they're going to do.
Informed consent.
Yeah.
Truthful, informed consent between a doctor and the patient.
Fair enough. Well, for folks that haven't had enough or don't have enough reason now after hearing all of this to throw a vote your way in January, give your final message to voters. So why should they vote for you?
There's a contrast right now. The two candidates that are on this is a pretty good contrast. I believe you had my opponent Air on here last week or the week before. We contrast each other pretty well. This is going to be the future of where we go for District 98 in Dorchester County. Come out and vote. It doesn't matter if you vote for my opponent or not. Go and vote. Be part of the process. I went and served in the military to make sure we have the process to choose our leaders. This is the process. Go out and vote. This is a turnout for me or my opponent. It doesn't matter. Go out and vote, please. That's it.
All right. Greg Ford running in District 98 in the special election coming up here in January. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.